series, an exposition of 1 Samuel 17. And so if you would, join back with me. This morning, we're going to be looking at verses 23 to verse number 28. And kind of as a way of introduction, I just want you to kind of review what we've been going over the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we talked about if you're going to be a giant killer, you've got to not just say you're going to do it, you have to get into the fight and really do some business fighting giants and realize that there's going to be more than one giant in your life. The ultimate enemy is Satan and the different struggles that come against us, the things that Satan uses, that we should fight against those things and really do our best to fight as David did, not just as the children of Israel did, just kind of say you're going to fight and not do anything. And then last week we kind of talked about some preparation for giant killers and things that David was doing. David was always faithful where he was at. He built his relationship with God and he made sure that was strong. We talked about how that he was submissive to the authorities in his life. Obviously, as believers, we need to be submissive to the authorities God puts in our lives, but our ultimate submission goes to God himself. And as we're submissive to him, submissive to his will, it'll help us. And then lastly, we talked about how David was dependable and reasonable and responsible. And so what you have happening is you have some preparation that was happening, or some preparation that was going on before he ever met the giant. And that is a trick. If you're going to fight giants, you got to be prepared. I mean, you got to be planning and doing the things that will make you successful. And then we're going to get in today some actual characteristics, some things that happened to David the actual day he was to fight Goliath. So if you would, join with me here in verse number 23. We're going to be reading verse number 23 to verse number 28. It says, and as he talked with them, and he's there with his brothers and the different men that are fighting, he says, and as he was talking to them, behold, there came up the champion of the Philistine, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and he spoke according to the same words, and David heard them. Those same words were the same words he's been saying every time. Have somebody, let's get it on. Have somebody come fight me so we could start this war, get this battle going. And it says that all of the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. So here you have David, this young man. He comes up. He's bringing food to his brothers. He's also bringing his share of the taxes of the food to give to the army that his dad is saying. And as he's doing this, down comes Goliath, and he's talking, and all of a sudden, Goliath comes down. He sees this giant there, and the men start running away. They're fearful of him. Now, the men are not in the valley facing Goliath. They're just seeing him and hearing him. They're just running back into their tents. And so David is kind of stunned by this. And it says, and the men of Israel said, have you seen this man that has come up? So I'm not adding to Scripture, but kind of to get in mind, help you understand what's going on. It's like David saying, well, who is this guy? And they're answering the question, have you seen this man? Have you seen this giant? Surely to defy Israel is he come up, and shall be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich him with great riches, give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. Now this is Saul doesn't want to fight it. Saul, we do know, you can kind of look at Saul. Saul's mentioned in verse number 11. Saul is the king of Israel. And if you know anything about Saul, the Bible said Saul stood head and shoulders above all in Israel. And that's just not being in a way where he is smarter or a better leader. No, it is talking physically, he's head and shoulders. If there's anybody who should be out fighting Goliath, it is Saul. Because he's so much bigger than everybody else. Saul doesn't want to fight him. And Saul's using the power of the purse, so to speak. And Saul says, you know what? I'll give you great riches. You kill Goliath, you'll get a reward. Not only will you get a reward, I'll let you marry one of my daughters. Instantly, you're part of the what? Royal family. You'd be like Princess Kate. You're a commoner, but you kind of marry into the royal family, and immediately you're royalty. But then probably the best one here is you'll make your father's house free in Israel. You won't have to pay taxes the rest of your life. Now, what is David doing right then? Well, he's paying his dad's taxes by bringing the food. And so this is a pretty good reward here. But David is not going to be doing this for the reward, because look what David says in verse 26. David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, what shall be done to the men that killeth the Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? And listen, this is a beautiful statement. He says, for who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? You know what David's saying? Well, all that's nice, but who is this guy that he should defy the armies of God? See, David recognized something. This isn't just a fight between two armies. It's a fight between the devil and God. David recognized there's something bigger going on here. And when you fight your demons, and when you fight the giants that come in your life, that you struggle with, and that you're going to really make an effort to whip them this spring, guess what? We need to recognize this is a fight between, a spiritual fight between Satan and God. And he says, who's going to do this? Why are we letting this guy defy God? And the people answered him after this manner, saying, so shall it be done to the men that kills him. But look at verse 28. And Eliab. Now, if you want to look at who Eliab is 1 Samuel 16:67. It's the older brother, who is also a pretty substantial man. Because when Samuel went to anoint David, when he first saw Eliab, he said, man, this is surely the Lord's anointed. And this is a big, impressive-looking man. So Eliab isn't fighting Goliath either. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, why comest thee down here? Why are you even here, David? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and thy naughtiness of thy heart, for thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. Well, there's no battle going on, so I don't know what Eliab is talking about here. But Eliab is like a lot of people who are going to come into your life when you try to fight a battle. And so we come to the very first characteristic that we're looking at today of a giant killer. And the first one is this. You better run around and find friends of faith. Don't run around with faithless people. And what I mean by that is if you're gonna live for God, if you're gonna kind of say, you know what, I want to move my Christian life up a notch, and I want to start winning some battles that I constantly lose. You know what? You need to make sure you're running around with good, faithful people that are praying for you and are going to try to help you. Because if you don't, the crowd is always going to be trying to get you not to fight the battle. That's because that is what's happening here. The whole army, as soon as they see Goliath, what are they doing? And they're running away. Eliab comes, his own brother comes and says, you know what? He's not fighting. Saul isn't fighting. You know what? If you're going to really live for God, find somebody who's fighting the same battle you're fighting. You go back and look in Psalms chapter 1. There's a great illustration of what happens when we run around with the wrong, shall we say, the wrong crowd. The crowd that isn't living for the Lord. The crowd that is going the opposite direction. Now I'm going to just use an illustration here, and again, I'm not picking on one specific sin. Okay, we can expand it to anything. But say just in the past, maybe you've had a weakness with alcohol, or maybe you've struggled with drinking in the past, and that's a giant. Rears up its ugly head all the time. Kind of just beats you. And you say, you know what? I want to beat this. I want to beat it. And you make a good decision to do it. But as soon as you go back to the old crowd, guess what the old crowd's going to try to get you to do? Drink. Drink. Because that's what the old crowd does. In Psalm chapter 1, it's very clear. It says, blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. You see a quick progression here. Is if a person is walking with the wrong crowd, pretty soon he's going to be standing with the wrong crowd, and eventually, and he will be sitting with them and doing exactly what they're doing. And if you want to win, if you want to beat that sin, watch out who you run with. If they're the same crowd that is coming up against the same enemy but doesn't want to fight it, stay away from them. Well, Brother Bygel, I work with him. I understand that. When you go to work, you do what? You work. You don't have to hang out with them when work is over. You don't. Find some, well, then it's lonely. Yeah, it might be lonely, but then find some new friends. Find a new crowd. Find somebody that's gonna support what you're doing. And they will help you win that battle. No, you might say, well, you know, I determined I'm not going to do anything. But you know what? If you go the wrong places, pretty much you'll be doing the wrong thing. David, when he gets down there, there's a crowd here that doesn't want to fight. The crowd, those guys, they didn't want to fight. They had no desire to fight. And so he says something that is very powerful. Who is this guy that he should defy the armies of God? My second point is this. Don't listen to the wrong crowd either. You start doing right, chances are somebody is going to do everything they can to tear you down. They will do everything they can to tear you down. His own brother. That's the thing that amazes me about his own brother, who should be the one that's fighting. If Saul's not going to go out there and fight, we know Eliab is an impressive man according to Samuel, but he's not fighting either. And look what he does here. How do you get my glasses here? Notice what he says here. he comes up and he tries to do everything he can to make his little brother look bad. Why are you even here? Why are you even here? David was there because his dad sent him. David was there because he was supposed to be there. You know why Eliab said that? Because Eliab knew he wasn't doing what was right either. So he wants to try to criticize David. You want to fight giants? I guarantee you this. You start running with the wrong crowd. You start distancing yourself from that crowd that's trying to tear you down. That crowd is going to start criticizing you. Because that's what that type of crowd does. They're not your real friends. Got a lot of older. They're not your friends. You know, they want you to participate in the same sin that they're participating in. Why are you even here? They might come and they might say things like, well, why are you going to church? Oh, I want to root for the Lord. Why? You're going to lose all your friends. So-called. You can't, you're not going to, you can't beat that. There's really nothing wrong with that. It's what the wrong crowd will always try to do. He begins to belittle him. And watch out, those that don't want to win this battle will start to belittle you. Not only did he belittle him, he questioned his heart. I know thy pride and the naughtiness of your heart. Questioned his attitudes. He questioned his motives. Oh, you're just trying to look better than us. I remember, and I haven't always been a preacher. Okay. When I was working, when I was going to college, I worked at a warehouse for 4 years. Probably kind of doing what you do. Driving that old forklift. I'm not sure if that's what you do. You drive the truck. Okay, I was driving the forklift, loading the truck. And did it for 4 years. And I can remember because I would usually get off school at about 11:30. I'd go to work at 12, and I'd usually work 6 hours. And just because I had grown up and I had a pretty good work ethic, and my parents taught me how to work, I'd work pretty hard for 6 hours, and I'd actually get more done than the guys that work there longer. And guess what begins to happen? Because you're doing something, you make them look bad, and pretty soon they're going to start belittling. You're just trying to impress the boss. Questioning motives. No, it's my job, yeah. And basically that's why I do that. You want to beat this. You start distancing yourself from that crowd, they're going to criticize you, and they're going to question why you're doing it. They'll question why you're doing it. And what you have to realize is my third point here, is this. Realize something. You're not alone. You might feel all by yourself. And yes, when David was out on that field and it was just him and Goliath, he may have been standing there by himself, but he was not alone. He was not alone. That statement, and it is a great statement. Who is this guy to defy the armies of God? Plural. He didn't say, who's this Philistine champion to defy Saul's army, singular. He said, who's this guy to defy the enemies of God, the armies of God? You realize that there is a great spiritual battle going on. And you need to realize that too. That when you do your fight, you're not alone. There's 3 people always with you. Who's with you? Number 1, for sure, God's always with you. Okay? The Lord's with you. And you and the Lord make a good team. You are not alone. Always, you are not alone. You might feel alone at that workplace. You might feel alone at that family gathering. You might feel all alone where even in your home as you try to do what's right. But you are not alone. God's with you. God's with you. Jesus Christ made this statement right as he was getting ready to go up into heaven. Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. He is always there with you. And if ever you feel alone, you know what you need to do. You need to, whether you're at work or you're at that family gathering or you're at that place where the people or the crowds against you and they start to criticize you, get alone and you just pray and you just ask God, you need to help me get through this. And Lord, I know you are there with me and I want you to strengthen me for this battle because he's there. And not only is he there, I believe this. There's angels among us. The Bible says in Hebrews that we entertain angels unaware. And it is very... Elisha, when he was fighting the battle, the whole Syrian army came down against Israel. And everybody was panicking, and Elisha said, there's more with us than with them. And he prayed and he asked God to let his servant see the hosts of heaven. The Bible says that he opened up his eyes and he saw the chariots of fire all around him. You are not alone. There are angels among us. And they can help you. Now, I'm not going to say that there's an angel behind the pulpit here and there. But you know what? There's angels among us. You might not see them, but they'll help you. They'll help you. And then lastly, who else is among you? Your other brothers and sisters of God going through the same thing. Now, this isn't straight from the text. But I'm using Eliab as an illustration here. Here was a bad brother trying to tear down his little brother. But you know what? We're brothers and sisters together here that aren't going to tear each other down. At least you shouldn't. You better not. At least the pastor better not hear about it. Okay? When Jorge's going through something tough, Jorge is not alone because Emmett's there. And Jorge may not know, and Emmett may not be with Jorge at his work. But you know what we need to do when we start to fight? We need to realize, man, there's a brother and sister in Christ standing beside me. I know I may be alone in this situation, but there is somebody back at Lubbock Baptist Temple who believes the same thing and wants me to win. And wants me to win the fight. There's somebody there to lift you up. Be careful. And my one main thought through this message today is be careful who you run with. Be careful who you associate with. And if you're kind of a loner, you know what? Find some good folks to lift you up. Be willing to share some of the struggles you're having with people. You might say, well, can I really share this with Brother Bygel or with some of the other people in the church? Yeah. You don't have to get up here and maybe in front of the pulpit and announce to everybody your struggle in life. But you know what? It'll do you good to say, you know what? I am struggling with this. Will you help me? Because you'll find people that will be willing to pray and willing to give strength to help you get through your battle and beat your giant. Don't lose heart. Don't lose heart when that enemy, with all his little minions and all his little crowd out there, starts telling you you can't and starts telling you it's not worth the fight. And you just say, God's with me. And there's people behind me. And I'm going to fight that battle. Shall we stand? Best thing that ever happened to me, when I got saved, my best friend got saved at the same time. And it made all the difference to know that there was somebody there that was helping me along the way. Because it's tough to do it alone. And you know, folks, God's there with you. He'll never go anywhere. He'll strengthen you. The angels are going to help you. But you know what? There's people, even in this church, that love you, want to help you. And we just need to be willing. Sometimes maybe just to be willing to share with somebody. And just say, will you pray with me about this? I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? You might not even want to share the exact battle that you're fighting. But you know what? Just tell somebody. You know, I'm hurting this week. It's going to be a tough week. Will you pray for me this week? You'll be surprised. Nobody's going to say, oh, I'm not going to pray with you. You know what they'll say? I sure will. And I'll be thinking about you. And you can win those battles. You can beat those giants. Lord, we come to you today, and Lord, I do ask that you would just meet with us now, Lord. Speak to our hearts. There might be some today that are struggling with being in the wrong crowd. Some folks might have lost their heart because people have been criticizing them and just been negative about the things of the Lord, and people are just losing heart. Lord, help people to come and just to pray and get their strength from you. May they realize that you're there with them all along. You've never gone anywhere. And Lord, may they be willing to look among the congregation for somebody that will help them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. With heads bowed, eyes closed, nobody looking around. Again, my thought is this. If you're running around with the wrong crowd, ask God to help you today to break that relationship and start doing the right thing. Maybe you've been depressed and you're struggling. Maybe you just need to come and pray and ask God to help you, strengthen you to go it alone a little bit, because He's there with you. Whatever your need may be, I pray that you'll respond in a way that'll please God. As Austin plays, won't you come?